I want to welcome everybody to our last session of FPU, our session 9. We're going to get started right away, and we're going to watch the video. And as we start the video, we'll jump into the lesson. So we're going to go ahead and just kick off with the video. I want to thank Matika for cooking the meal for us as we're having dinner right now. And we miss those that couldn't make it with us tonight, but we want to just thank you for the 9 weeks that you've, 8 weeks you were with us. And tonight being the 9th week, we're going to be closing out FPU for the final session. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the video now.
So after Sharon and I went broke and got the opportunity to start over, we were starting to apply these biblical steps, these biblical principles of how to handle money to our lives, and they started to work, and we were starting to, okay, we know we get to eat, we know we get to keep the lights on, and the wolf gets away from the door a little bit, you can breathe. Y'all know what I'm talking about, say yes. And immediately I started thinking, because I'm a spender, and my wife is the saver. Most of you have a spender and a saver. We've talked about that. And I started thinking, as a spender, most spenders are givers. And I started thinking about, okay, how can I start this generosity thing? How can I start this giving thing? And I immediately started studying it, and I'm just trying to lead my family. I'm just trying to walk along here. But then how can we do more? How can we reach out with generosity? And over the years, I've read a lot about it and thought a lot about it. And I actually read a book that changed my life. I love the book. It's one of my top 10 favorite books I've ever read. It's written by an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. My friend, he's become a good friend of mine, Rabbi Daniel Lappin. And he became a good friend of mine because, I mentioned his book on the radio show, and it started selling. And and he called me and he said, "Who are you? I love you." And so we became buddies. But his intellect is incredible. The book is called "Thou Shalt Prosper," and the thesis of the book is the 10 reasons that Jewish people have had a tendency to prosper beyond the population in every setting that they've ever been in throughout history. And today in America, 3% of the population is Jewish, and 67% of the Forbes 400 is. Yeah, you want to read the book now, huh? Yeah. But one of the things, there's 10 things in here, and one of the things is generosity. That it's just part of the rhythm, culturally, religiously, with the folks in the Jewish community, is part of the rhythm of their lives is generosity. And it comes from this, and I love this picture of generosity. It's one of my favorite. As the Sabbath ebbs away each Saturday night, Jewish families prepare for the productive work week ahead by singing the joyful Havdalah service. The Havdalah service is recited over a cup of wine that runs into the saucer beneath. This overflowing cup symbolizes the intention to produce during the week ahead, not only sufficient to fill one's own cup, take care of your own household, but also an excess that will allow overflow for the benefit of others. In other words, I'm obliged to first fill my cup to take care of mine, but then continue earning or pouring, as it were, so that I have sufficient to give away to others. So the principle is, if the cup represents what we spend on ourselves, the principle is your lifestyle should always be less than your income. So I don't care how big your cup is. You can have a gloriously wonderful lifestyle as long as it's smaller than your income, so that there's overflow to be used for the good of others. And that keeps me earning. When I've got everything kind of taken care of, Sharon and I got financial peace now, y'all. But I keep earning because it keeps putting more in here for overflow for the good of others. And you end up working just for generosity, almost. I mean, it's seriously fun. And see, if you understand everything else we teach in Financial Peace University, but you don't get this lesson, you'll get the financial, but you won't get the peace. The peace comes from understanding this lesson. This lesson is the so that lesson. See, we get out of debt so that. We handle money on a budget so that we can retire with dignity and not count on the government to take care of us. And we get out of debt so that we can change our family tree. A good man, a godly man, leaves an inheritance to his children's children, Proverbs says. Inheritance is biblical among families of faith. And we'll talk about that more in the legacy journey. And so we do all of this so that we can be outrageously generous. That's the third thing. And you know, the beauty of having some money is not only can I retire with dignity, not only can I change my family tree, but I get the joy, the fun, the blast, the peace of outrageous generosity. And really what it comes down to is giving money away, especially for people that are not people of faith, is weird as a financial principle. Because, I mean, think about the math. If I have some money and I give it away, I don't have the money. How is that smart? How is that a financial principle? I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. But, you know, you have to really start to understand and think about life on something more than just this finite way of looking at it. It's more of an infinite way of looking at it. And that is this. You can hold money tight and it won't get away and you don't give. I'm just going to hold it tight. I'm going to be Scrooge. I'm going to hold it. And you can hold it tight. And here's what's interesting. Look at the body language. You can go anywhere in the world and people understand that. Right? Or you can hold it with an open hand, and even a dog understands this. Right? And on top of that, if you're holding it like this, it's not going to get away. It's not going to get away. You're going to be okay. But no more can get in. But when you're holding it like this, some of it might go away, but more can get in. That's a real principle. That really works. Because here's the thing. You and I are designed not only to take care of ourselves, and that's healthy spiritually, healthy psychologically, healthy emotionally, healthy relationally. We're designed to take care of ourselves, but we're also designed to serve others. It's in our DNA. It's how we're made. And so when stuff comes to us and stays with us, we're stopped up. When we're designed for it to flow through. Anything that's stopped up eventually begins to stink. You ever see a pond out on the farm and it doesn't have an outlet? It just sits there? What happens? Get scum growing on top, right? Slime on top. You ever meet people that got slime on top? You have a meeting with them and you're like, I need to take a shower. Y'all know what I'm talking about? And they come in, sometimes you work for them, sometimes they work for you, sometimes they want to date your daughter. And all that is this is someone who's stopped up, and it's all about them. They are all me all the time, and I'm going to hold tight. And Indira Gandhi said, you can't shake hands with a clenched fist. It's impossible. We are blessed, the Bible says in Genesis, that we might be a blessing. The peace and financial peace actually comes from outrageous generosity. See, what happens is we think of generosity as somehow that was an act. Oh, that person was generous. Look, that was a generous thing they did. Like it's an act. No, generosity is a character quality like integrity or like honesty. It's the way you describe that as a generous person. It is who you are, and it's a series of choices to choose to be that person, just like you choose to be a person of integrity. It's a character quality. It's not just an act of giving away money. A generous person is one who holds the door for you. A generous person is one who doesn't take up the entire conversation talking about them. A generous person is someone who gives all the time. They can't keep themselves. That becomes a character quality. And here's what's interesting. Generous people, as opposed to selfish people and people that are Scroogey, right? They are highly attractive. You want to be around them. Not because they're going to give you stuff, but you just want to be around them. They're just likable people. They're just the kind of, it's hard to find a generous person that's smiling. It's hard to find a generous person that's depressed. Look like they were weaned on a pickle. It's hard to find people who are generous who aren't really getting all that life has to give. Proverbs says a generous person will prosper. It says it in the Bible. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. See, what happens is when you give, it moves us from selfish down the spectrum to selfless. And every time I give, I take another step down there. Sometimes I move back, and in your life, you're back and forth. Sometimes I'm more selfish, but very seldom after you've had a life of a rhythm of giving, do you get all the way back down to just purely self-centered. Albert Schweitzer, if you don't know who he was kind of the Mother Teresa of his day. Much like Mother Teresa, he turned his back on a large family fortune in order to serve in the ministry. And she served the poorest of the poor in India, obviously, and Schweitzer served in Africa. He was a doctor, and he served in Africa his whole life basically on the mission field. And he said, I don't know what your destiny will be, but one thing I do know, the only ones among you who will be really happy are those who have sought and found how to serve. When you find out how to give and how to serve, you find happiness and joy. It's always in the mix. It's where it comes from. We're happiest and we're most fulfilled when we're serving and when we're giving. And what happens is you become who you were designed to be. You see, God designed you to be a giver. It's how he made us. And so when we start giving, your creativity goes up. Your passion for things and your boldness goes up. It changes everything. You come into your own. You become, you flower, you blossom when you're generous. You'll get ideas you never thought you'd get. Things will pop into your head. You go, where did that come from? Because generosity releases endorphins, proteins, changes your heart rate. It does that because it's fun, y'all. That's what happens to your physiological body when you're having fun. And all of those things boost creativity, boost quality relationships. And you don't ever give to get. I don't want to give with the motive that I'm going to gain financially. You might be a prosperity gospel person, but I don't find that when I read the scriptures. I do find that I am changed. That when I give, I am changed. And that person is more attractive and has a very practical tendency then to prosper. But it's not like God, I don't feel like God owes me a debt just because I gave. He still thinks he's God. And what would happen if we were all just generous? Like random acts of generosity all the time. What would happen to the culture? It could be crazy, y'all. I don't know about y'all, but when I go to the grocery store, I see that visit as an interruption to my life. I'm in a NASCAR race and I have to go in for a pit stop, and the longer I'm there, the further behind I'm going to get in the race. So choosing the effective line, the line in the grocery store that is moving the fastest, is a Dave art form. I want to get in there. I want to get out. I am not there to socialize. I don't know any of you people. I'm getting some stuff and leaving. Get out of my way, Chatty Cathy, okay? Y'all follow what's going on. Anybody like that, you want to get in, you want to get out, you're looking for the shortest line, the one line that's moving the fastest, the cashier that can seem to do it, And so she may be a little longer, but that one's getting her done. I'm getting in that line, right? You know what I'm talking about. So I stopped in the grocery store the other day, and I was pulling up there, and I picked out my line for efficient move, and there was a lady up there checking out, and there was a guy between us, and she's checking out, and her kids are all over the place. They're bothering her. They're bothering the cashier. And all of this is bothering me. I get to looking at her, and I'm looking, she looks like she's got, PTSD, look like she's been in a war. And I get to looking a little closer, and I stopped my judgmental self, and I realized I was looking at her clothes are pretty worn. And then she put the card in, and the card was denied. Then she put another card in. That card was denied. And then I look, and you start to see her eyes. And she's not just having a bad day. She's having a bad year. And little did I know, between me and her in line was Clark Kent. And Superman pops out, Hispanic guy in construction clothes and work boots, doesn't speak English, but we all can translate card denied. And before I realized that, this guy pulls out two $100 bills and hands them to the cashier and points to the lady and does that. I love generous people. You love generous people. Generous people make us smile. Generous people make our eyes leak. And she's trying to say, no, 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 no. He's having none of it. He's just grinning. And finally, she accepts the gift and she gives him a big hug. And I wanted to give him a big hug too, but it'd been awkward. And you do too. Now, I don't know about Superman. I don't know his story. I know he doesn't speak English. But he does speak hugs. And he does speak card denied. And he does speak generosity, outrageous generosity. I don't know whether he digs a ditch and he's a day laborer or whether he's an everyday millionaire that owns the whole construction company. I don't know what he is. I'll never know. God knows. And that lady doesn't know. And all she knows is God just showed up in her life that day at the grocery store. I love generous people. Generous people make me smile. Make my eyes leak. I was at a country club a while back. I was hanging out in the locker room and Miguel was there. And Miguel ran up to me and he's talking and Mr. Energy, just like, can I get you a locker, Dad? Can I shine your shoes, Dad? Can I do that? Can I do that? Can I do that? And he's like the coolest kid. And so later on, we were sitting out on the deck, me and these guys, and here comes Miguel out. Mr. Davis, anything I can get for you? And I'm like, man, this guy is like, he's everywhere. He's the ever-ready bunny. And they said, oh, he's that way all the time. He's the brightest kid, man. Everybody loves Miguel. And he leaves, and one of the guys goes, well, you know about Miguel? I said, well, I don't know about any of y'all. I'm visiting. and the other guys go, no, what? And they said, well, he's just about finished up his master's degree, and he's about to get his MBA in business. And other guy goes, really? And he goes, yeah. And your buddy, our buddy Steve here at the club, he paid for it. He said, do what? Steve? Yeah. Well, he would never tell anybody. That's Steve. That's what everyday millionaire does, because you don't even know they're there. They just sneak around and pay some guy's tuition. I'm leaving. I was talking to Miguel, and he's helping me get stuff in the car. And I said, hey, man, I heard a rumor you're getting your master's. I'm proud of you. Way to go, dude. That's pretty incredible. And he grinned. He threw his shoulders back, and he goes, yeah. He said, Dave, I come to this country with a backpack, and there wasn't nothing in it but dreams. And someday I'm going to belong to this club. Way to go, Steve. I love generous people. Yeah. They make me smile. You love generous people. They make our eyes leak, don't they? See, I've got this weird idea. What if everyone in America started doing that? Start doing stuff like that all the time. What if we the people started taking care of we the people? We could put the government out of business. They're already inefficient. We could just make them irrelevant and inefficient. According to Giving USA, individuals last year in the United States of America gave $286 billion to charity. That's about $2,514 per household in giving, about 4% of average household income in America today. Americans give about 4% of their income to charity, $2,514 per year per person. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and just down the road from us in Memphis, Tennessee, is a fabulous institution that takes care of sick children at no charge called St. Jude's. And St. Jude's does an incredible job, world-class medical care, completely free. Their budget annually is about $1 billion. Americans last year gave $286 billion. If we could increase giving by just 1/3, we could put 100 St. Jude's out there. That would just be a little bit. I mean, that's like from $2,500 to about, what, $3,400. If it all went to that one thing. But wouldn't that be kind of cool? Like 100 St. Jude's? I mean, what if we only did half that? That'd be okay. It's different, isn't it? We the people taking care of we the people. In America today, there's 108,000 children in the foster care system eligible for adoption to a new forever home today. Only 108,000. It costs between $0 and $2,500 per child to place them in an adoptive home coming out of foster care. And so if you said $2,500 per, which is not quite that high, but if you just said that to round up, it's only $270 million would put every single one of those children in a home. Only $270 million. That's a 1% increase in giving. $286 billion, $270 million. You follow? It's like from $2,500 to, just, what is that, $2,600, right? Not even, per household. Could place every single child in the foster care system in adoption, just like that. What if we, the people, were outrageously generous? In America today, somewhere around 42 million people are some version of hungry, food insecurity. 13 million of them are children. 25 billion a year would eradicate hunger in the United States. 25 billion. We give 286 billion now. So you get that? That's a 10% increase in giving is all. Would eradicate hunger. With just a few numbers there, we could have 100 St. Jude's, we could eradicate hunger, and we could place every kid in the foster system that's eligible for adoption in a home. I'm just getting started. It's amazing what outrageous generosity could do if we all started doing it at one time. And last year, Americans spent $41 billion on Christmas decorations. And we spent $70 billion on our pets. Now, don't misunderstand. I'm not here to say you shouldn't buy Christmas decorations or have pets, because Papa Dave be putting up some Christmas lights. I love me some Christmas. And I got me some grand dogs that are amazing, and I still have a Shih Tzu that rules the roost. So we love our puppies, we love our animals, and we're still doing Christmas. That's not the point. The point is that there's money out there flying around. And I'm not saying we should never have a cup of coffee again. I'm not saying that, but when you add up some of the stuff, it just kind of gives you perspective on what could happen. $70 billion, by the way, is more than the 39 poorest countries' entire gross domestic product added together. We spend on pets. I mean, these are some puppies been taken care of, I'm just saying. If we, the people, increased our giving by just a few percentage points, we could do things like eradicate domestic hunger, place every child in the foster care system into a forever home. We could build 100 St. Jude's. We could do, we could just go on for days, couldn't we? But it doesn't take but just a few percentage points if you get everybody involved with outrageous generosity. You starting to see the impact? This is what we're designed to do. We're not designed to consume. This is how we're designed. It's who we're made to be. That's why you're resonating as I'm bringing these numbers across. You're going, yeah, that's the way it should be, because it's who we are down inside. I mean, what about the impact you could have on just one person's life? She's 70 years old. When she comes to church, she spends all morning getting her hair right, because that's what that generation did. She always wears a dress and always a standard issue set of pearls in her dress for church uniform. She doesn't look 70, she looks 55 or 60, because as we say in the South, she hasn't let herself go. She has an assigned pew, like we all do in church. And she comes in on Sunday morning to sit in her assigned pew, and there's a young couple there right beside where she usually sits, and they're having a bit of a tense discussion. She overhears them, eavesdrops, like any good church lady will do. And realizes that their electricity is getting ready to be turned off on Tuesday if they don't find the money before Tuesday. And she inserts herself lovingly and kindly and gently into the conversation because she's just the sweetest person. And she prays with them and talks to them and asks if she can follow up and gets their address and, has a nice conversation, a little prayer with them. And she sits down and scoots to the side, and they continue talking. Praise and worship begins. Everyone stands. Her husband has been out in the parking lot helping people park, and he comes in and stands beside her during praise and worship, and she leans over and whispers to him, hands him a piece of paper with that address on it. He excuses himself from praise and worship and walks out into the lobby of the church and pulls out his cell phone and jumps on the utility company website and pays their light bill for a year in advance. Walks back in, continues praise and worship. At the end of church, the young man opens his phone. There's a text from the utility company that someone's paid the light bill for a year. And he starts crying, and she starts crying, and they reach over to their new friend and they say, look what happened. God answers prayers. I love generous people. You love generous people. They make us smile. They make my eyes leak. The young couple that's 32 and 34 years old, and they just came out of Financial Peace University, and they got out of debt, and they're making good money, and they're up in baby step 4, 5, and 6, and they're doing pretty good. They're making about $150,000 a year, and look over and they realize there's a single mom there in their church that needs a car, so they buy her a little $1,000 car, and she lights up, and it was so much fun. They decided to do it again. They gave away 10 cars over the next 10 months. Because if $1,000 will do it, why not do 10? I love generous people. They make me smile. The financial peace that comes from outrageous generosity is just plain outrageous.
Being able to give is the very best part of having wealth.
So we had this idea that we wanted to set our children up for success. We had heard about the idea of paying off your children's homes in another course that we took prior to FPU.
We don't have any secrets. They've been right there with us. But there's one thing that we've kept from them, and I'd like
You
to...
kept something from
Yes,
them?
yeah, it was a little secret, and we thought, let's just keep it.
These kids, they're amazing in how they handle their finances, about their life. They're really role models for me personally. And so we already knew that they were going to be able to handle it properly.
Just because they're here and they're going to scream debt-free with us, we would like them to know that their mortgages are paid off.
Touchdown, baby! That's as good as it gets right there.
I have been a volunteer with PAWS probably for 25 years now. PAWS is a no-kill animal adoption center. It has bothered me that there was a mortgage on the shelter. In 9 months, my husband and I have paid off $450,000 so that PAWS has no mortgage.
We did whatever we wanted. There was a charity that we stood behind. We threw money at it. I love to walk in off the street and write a check for $2,500 to a local food bank. We bought guitars for the school at $2,000. A local church in town had just started a food pantry, so I wrote them a check for $1,000 so they could buy a fridge. Now that we became debt-free, it opened up this whole new world of giving, and it's changed absolutely everything in our lives.
Missions is a big part of my family history. One of my desires with that was to be able to have a place that we would be able to share with others. Having that vision to me and keeping that in front of me was a big part of why I stayed and was able to stay committed to paying off every month, even down to the penny of what was left over. Here we are sitting on the lake and in a house that we can use to bless others with.
Okay, think of a time when you were on the other side of someone else's generosity. I can remember when Winston and I were first married, we were on a super tight newlywed budget, and we had budgeted to go out to a really nice date night. And this restaurant was probably like $12 a plate, but we were gonna get appetizers and dessert. Like, it was gonna be a big night. And we went and we were eating our meal, and we looked over and saw some family friends, and they came over and said, hey, and we talked a little bit, and then they left the restaurant, and we finished our meal. And we asked the waitress for our check. And she said, oh, well, that couple sitting at the table over there, they took care of it. And guys, it may have been like $40 total. Like, I don't know how much the bill was. It wasn't a ton, but it was enough that I remember feeling, the emotions I felt was like overwhelmed. I thought, who would do that? Like, that is so nice. Winston and I, we couldn't get over it. I remember Winston saying, I cannot wait till we get to that point in our lives where we can just pay for people's meals. Because why is that? Giving is the most fun. It brings you so much joy, you guys. And out of all the emotions you can have, joy is the most eternal, because you will realize that giving is contagious. Once you experience it, you understand this. You want to just keep giving. There was a Duke University study that came out, and it said that if you are the recipient of a good deed, you have momentary happiness, but you have longer-term happiness when you are the giver. And what's great is giving is more than just money. It becomes a part of who you are. You start to find ways that you can give with your time and your talents. I have a friend who's a photographer, and she gives 10 sessions every Christmas to families with special needs children for their Christmas cards for free. I have another friend who's a makeup artist, and she goes down to a homeless shelter once a year and gives makeovers to all the women there. You guys, find what you are passionate about and start giving. And I want you to do this no matter what baby step you're on. I do not want you to miss this. Do not wait till baby step 7. Start giving a little until you can give a lot. And there's a lie out there that people say, well, if I just had more money, I would give. But that's not always the case. I was doing a couple's budget with them, and they got to the end and they were like, oh, well, we don't have any money to give. I was like, yeah, that's because you have your budget upside down. You have to make it a priority, or it will never become a priority. John D. Rockefeller said, I never would have been able to tithe the first $1 million I ever made if I didn't tithe my first salary, which was $1.50 a week. So start where you are. And what you'll realize is that money is a tool. It is a tool to be used for the kingdom of God. And this journey that you're on, it's not just for you. It's for your legacy and for you to become outrageously generous. And I want you to experience this. I want you to experience the joy of giving, because it is indescribable.
So why does God tell us to give? Well, I started going to church in my 20s. I didn't know anything about this God stuff, and I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. Why does God want us to give? Why is there so much in Scripture about giving and giving and giving and giving? And the first conclusion I came to in my stupid little mind was, I decided God needs my money. God needs my help. Big Dave's here to help out God. Just a wee bit arrogant. Let me tell you, if that's you, if it was like me, if you're like me on that, it's just, let me just tell you, if God wants your money, he'll just take it, and there'll be a greasy spot where you were sitting. God does not need your money. That's so funny. And then I decided, well, my church has been a blessing to me. I need to be a blessing to my church. God has me to give so that I can support the work of the ministry and take care of my church. And then I went to a church business meeting, and their budget was $7 million. And mine wasn't. And I thought, well, this church doesn't need my money. Why does God have us to give? What the church needs sold out believers. The church needs leadership that knows how to serve. The church needs community that is outward focused and programs that are outward focused, not inward focused. The church needs these things, and money just comes when you do that. It's a natural byproduct of doing church right, having integrity. You see, we're made in God's image. It says in Isaiah that we are knit in our mother's womb, like your granny with the knitting needles. Actually, when you look it up in the Hebrew, the word knit there is more akin to the word that we use for crochet. My granny used to crochet. Little known fact, she taught Dave to crochet. I lost that skill and they gave me my man card back. But I think about the maker of heaven and earth, the great I am. You were crocheted in your mother's womb. You were knit in your mother's womb with an RNA, a DNA double helix. And he's going, wow, that is fearfully and wonderfully made. Look at that one. That one's special. Every time he does it. We're made in his image. Many years ago when our children were little, I was much more disciplined about getting up early and reading the scriptures. And I still do, but I'm not as hardcore as I was. I was a hardcore Pharisee. I never missed a time. And I was up about 5 o'clock one morning. My son, Daniel, I've got 2 girls and a boy. I love all 3 of my kids so much. I about die from loving them so much. And my little boy got up. He was about 5. And 5 o'clock in the morning, here he comes down the stairs, dragging his blanket, right? And he's got the footy pajamas on. The hole in the knee, right? He's been sliding in home base. Got no teeth. And hair sticking up like this. Cute as a button. And he comes down, interrupts me studying at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, buddy, you don't need to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be tired later. You're going to have a fit, get a beating. Don't get up. Buddy, you need to go back to bed. And he's like, well, Daddy, I'll go back to bed. Can I just sit with you for a minute? And he crawled up in my lap. And life just doesn't get much better, does it? And I just started crying before I knew it. He said, Daddy, what's wrong? I said, well, I was just reading in here again in this Bible. And it says, God gave his only son. I said, Daddy, you're my only son. I can't get my head around that. I can't even process that. And no matter how old I get or how long I've been walking to God, I still can't get my head around that. God blesses us beyond our wildest imaginations. He is a giver. He's an outrageously generous giver. And we're made in his image. It's pretty difficult to say you're Christ-like when you're not outrageously generous. Because he's outrageously generous. I'm a follower of Christ. Really? And you never give anything? How can you even process that? It's not logical. We're made in his image. If you're going to be like him, and he gave his only son, how can I even think about that? See, the more generous you become, the more you're becoming who God made you to be. You were designed when he knit you to be a certain way, and when you're giving, you come into that, and you blossom, like we were saying earlier. And when I first met God, I didn't understand all this Bible stuff about giving. It was weird to me, and it's like the preacher said, and you need to give a tithe. And I said, what's that? And he said, a tenth. A tenth of what? Give a tenth of your income. To what? Our church. Right. That sounds like a plan for you. This is how I started my Christian walk, okay? I was a little bit cynical. I have a gift of cynicism. But the Bible says in Deuteronomy, you shall truly tithe all the increase of your grain that the field produces each year. The tithe is a tenth of your increase, a tenth of your profit, a tenth of what you gain. And the word in Hebrew, when you look it up, the word tithe is English word, obviously, an old English word. When you look up and do the Hebrew study on it, it literally means 10%, 1/10. That's what the word literally means. And so I had a friend of mine, he goes, well, sometimes I advise people just to give a 5% tithe. And I went, well, that's okay, because I'm not like a performance-based Christian. I don't think God loves tithers more than non-tithers or something like that. This is just an instruction. It's not a commandment or something like that. And so you give, but 5% is a 20th. And you can't tithe a 20th. You can't tenth a 20th. It doesn't work. So you can just say, I'm not tithing, but I'm giving 5%. That's okay. I'm going to be mad at you, but you can't 20th a tenth. It doesn't work. I'm a math nerd. You're driving me nuts here. So, but this is not a salvation issue, you guys. God loves tithers. He loves non-tithers. And you can not tithe and get into heaven. It's not like your ticket. It's just something he tells us to do. He loves a cheerful giver. He says, give your tithe off the top, first fruits. And of course, in Proverbs, they're talking to an agrarian culture. You bring in the harvest, and you take the top tenth. You have an increase of your flocks or herds. Be diligent to know the state of your flocks or herds. You take a tenth, and you give it to the local storehouse. And the storehouse in the Old Testament served the same purpose as our local church does today. And so the model that evangelicals have followed is to give a tenth of your income to your church that you attend. And that's where that comes from. And I had a lady on the radio call in and was like, I don't have any money to tithe. I want to, but I can't. I said, I understand. It's only 10% though. Let's look at your budget and see what we got to do. And we started looking at what she needed to sell and what kind of extra work she could do and tightening things up. And I said, why don't you just try it? Just do your budget, take 10% off, and then do the budget. Just see what happens. You're not going to starve because it's only 10%. You still got money for food, right? You're not going to die, something like that. Do it for 90 days and let's see what happens. She called me back about 6 months later on the air, screaming and crying and happy. She started telling me how much debt they had paid off. They had gotten completely out of debt in like 120 days. Everything just blew up. She said, my family, as far back as we have kept records, has been in debt. I am the first member of my family ever to be in debt. Tithing broke a generational curse off of our family. And I'm like, whoa, I ain't arguing with that one. And see, the tithe, like we said, it goes to your local church because it's modeled after the Old Testament storehouse. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse that there may be food in my house, it says in Malachi. Now the storehouse, again, Old Testament representation of the New Testament church, and there were two primary things that the storehouse took care of. Fed the Levites, they're in charge of the church, so your preacher. You feed your preacher. You take care of your staff. And I got to tell you, we work with 50,000, 60,000 churches in America, and almost no pastors are overpaid. The vast majority are underpaid for what they're governing, the size of what they're on. They are underpaid. You are not taking care of your pastors, America. And it's worse than that. Your worship leader and your youth pastor qualify for food stamps. They make nothing. They could do anything and make more money. That you have to be called. Jesus has to place a call. Hey, Dave, you are going. You have to be called to go into that because the pay is so bad. Because we're not taking care of our people. Second thing that the storehouse did, it took care of the widows and the orphans. So your local church is supposed to be taking care of the widows and the orphans. And that includes, in our culture today, the single mom. And 52% of the single moms live below the poverty level. So your church every so often ought to look out there in the parking lot and see a single mom needs some tires and go put tires on her car while she's in service and her kid is in nursery. She comes back all surprised. You need to be taking care of them. And this isn't in the Bible. This is just Dave Ramsey. But I think if you got people in your church that are in the military and their husband or their wife are deployed overseas fighting so that we have the freedom to worship, you ought to be taking care of them too. So then I get the question, do you tithe on the gross or on the net? The great evangelical paradox. The question that everyone wants to know. Barna Research says 5% of Americans tithe, so it really doesn't matter. I've been doing this for 30 years, studied this up one side and down the other. I can do you a really good Bible study on tithing after tax. I can do you a really good Bible study on tithing before tax. I tithe before tax on the big one, just so when I get up there, if I'm wrong, I'm okay. But that's the extent of my doctrinal training on that. I'll just tell you, it's not a big deal. Calm down. It's not performance-based Christianity. Give, give, give. You cannot outgive God. You cannot mess this up. Just give. It changed, quit trying to figure out, give. This is not an issue of your Heavenly Father's love. He loves you anyway. He loves his selfish children. He loves his stupid children. He loves all of us. And I have been both of those at times, and he loved me anyway. While I was yet a sinner, he still loved me. It's not an issue of your Father's love. You can't earn his love. It's too big for you. You can't contain it. It's just an instruction. The Bible says don't co-sign. Proverbs 17:18. One lacking in sense co-signs for another. The Bible says don't go into debt. Proverbs 22:7. The borrower is slave to the lender. The Bible says do a budget. Don't build a tower without first counting the cost lest you get halfway up. The Bible says save money because in the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil. The Bible says live on less than you make because the foolish devours all he has. The Bible says he loves a cheerful giver. Give a tenth of your increase. These are instructions on how to live your life, son and daughter. They're not performance-based Christianity. This is how you drive the car and keep it out of the ditch. It's how it's designed to work. And you drive it this way, and the car is fun. You drive it that way, it has dents in it. I got dents in my life when I wasn't doing it right. Offerings are above the tithe and are from surplus. There's no scriptural instance that offering came from sacrificial giving. That is a false teaching, guys. Don't fall for that one. Well, the widows might. Hey, just go through Legacy Journey. You'll see what I'm talking about. You can unpack every bit of this. It's all there. It's pretty easy to understand. You just got to get in there and dig it out and not have this toxic overlay on the giving subject. Just be a big giver and work it out. It's going to be okay. The tithe is the baseline. It's the constant rhythm of your life. Your offering is the fireworks that go off occasionally. It's above that. They spike. It's the opportunities for random fun stuff. It's fun, y'all. This is a blast. I mean, try this on Thanksgiving. Try this one. This will be great. Thanksgiving comes. You're getting ready to go to Grandma's house for the feast. Load the kids in the car 30 minutes early. On the way to Grandma's house, stop at the Waffle House or a place like a Waffle House. You pull up in front of the window, you know, where they got the counter and you can see everything inside. You know what I'm talking about. Greasy spoon, right? And leave the kids in the car. It might be cold. You can leave it running. It's no big deal. You're just going to run in there for a minute. And I want you to run in there, sit down at the counter. You don't even have to take up a table. Order you a cup of coffee. She'll come over. She'll pour you a cup of coffee. And I want you to leave 3 of those $100 bills under there. Slip out. Jump back in the car. There's a window right there like it's a movie. Say, kids, y'all watch God show off. I'll tell you what she'll do. You know who's working in Waffle House on Thanksgiving morning? Somebody needs a job bad. She'll walk over and pick it up. She wonders if it's a trick because it's been so long since anything good's happened to her. And she'll step back and look over her heart. And even if she's not a person of faith, even if she prayed this morning or she hadn't prayed in 20 years of mornings because she'd given up on God, she'll look up and say, thank you. Because this smells like him. She knows the aroma. We all do. We know when he showed up, don't we? We can tell when it was him. And the kids are going, Daddy, what just happened? Honey, I just had the most fun with $300 you can have. I mean, you can go out to dinner and have you a nice dinner for $300, can't you? White tablecloth, real nice place. I dare you to have more fun than that with $300. I dare you to try stuff like that and just stand back and watch God dance. Because that's what she'll do next. She'll go. Right? Because you just took care of Christmas. It's Thanksgiving. You just changed the trajectory of the next 60 days of her life. That's what that $300 did. You can't have that much fun for $300 anywhere else. I'll just tell you, it's impossible. So I needed a framework on how I was going to look at generosity. And let me show you what I learned. I'm going to grab two people here. Let me get you, sir, and you, sir. Would y'all come up here right quick? Y'all welcome them up here to the stage. Let me get y'all to stand right there and right there, please. And what's your name, sir?
Wyland.
Wyland, good to meet you. And your name, sir?
David.
David, good to meet you. You guys just face the audience here. Okay, Wyland is going to represent you and me. And we have saved up $1,000. Say $1,000. And Wyland has $1,000. Okay, y'all watch Wyland now. Now, well, they're laughing about Wyland. Okay, now, so David is going to represent bankers. Say boo. You're not really a banker, are you? Good, okay. All right, so Wyland is going to go down to the bank and deposit the money. We've made some money and we're going to put it in the bank. Make your deposit to David's bank, please. Good, thank you. Now, what just occurred in a legal term is that a fiduciary trust just transferred. Wyland just trusted the bank to hold his money. The bank didn't become the owner of the money. The bank has Wyland's money, and he trusted them with it. That's a fiduciary trust relationship. You understand? Say yes. And so Wyland, though, is this your pre-wife down here? Yes. Okay. So Wyland's been married long enough, and his wife comes in and says, we need a mixer. Now, ladies, let me tell you, guys do not understand mixers, and guys really do not understand mixers that cost more than our first car. But if you've been married a little while, you don't have to get it, you just got to get it. So Wyland goes down to the bank to get his money out, and the teller says, you got to see David. And David would never really do this, so don't y'all make fun of David, okay? But Wyland comes in and he goes, oh, Wyland, I got to tell you, man, this got bad news. I spent your money. And Wyland says, what? You didn't spend my money. He goes, yeah, I wanted to go on a cruise, and my wife wanted a new couch, and my teenage daughter needed a new car, and, you know, we needed some stuff. Have y'all ever needed some stuff? Need some stuff, don't we? And he said, so I took your money and I used it. Is that okay? And Wyland's like, no, that's not okay. I mean, if I went in there and they took my money, I'd have a hillbilly fit. I want my money. Would you want your money? Say yes. Yes. You'd feel violated, wouldn't you? Yes. Now, that would never really happen. But let's change their names for a minute. Let's say that this doesn't represent you and I. This represents God. And this doesn't really represent a banker. This represents you and I. You see, God trusted us to manage his stuff. It's a fiduciary trust relationship. And we're supposed to manage his stuff for his glory, which includes taking care of our own household, or worse than an unbeliever. But we take care of stuff. We are managers. We're not owners. He's the owner. Boy, that framework helped me. I got to remember, I'm not the owner. I'm just the manager of all of it, not just 10%, not a love offering, all of it. My cars, my mutual fund, my power, my celebrity, my kids, everything. I'm just a manager. And so when I pass an inheritance, I don't pass stuff to my kids. I pass the responsibility to manage it to my kids. That's a different way of looking at inheritance even. But I don't own it, so I don't have the right to do that. You guys give these guys a round of applause. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. See, we're just asset managers for the Lord. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. God owns everything. He owns 100%, not the tithe, not a 4% offering. He owns the whole thing. The whole thing is his. And so the deal is that he's trusted us to manage it. And I was being interviewed by one guy who's kind of a prosperity guy, and he goes, "Is it okay for Christians to be rich?" And thought he was throwing me an underhand pitch, and I said, "Absolutely not. We're not allowed to be rich." The blood drained out of his face, and I got a little bit of a mean streak. And I said, "Because we're supposed to be paupers, we're only managers. We don't get to own anything." Oh, I understand. We're stewards. Okay. But yeah. See, I've been on both sides of this equation. I've been an owner of a bunch of stuff, and it left. And I've been a manager of even more, and it's still here. And I've been broke, too, twice. Started broke, went broke. I'm so dumb I had to do this 2 times. And I turned to God's Word, and I learned how to manage. Many years ago, about 22 years old, I came to an event, a business and leadership event, and the guy spoke like I've been speaking with you. And I was sitting back in the back up on top, and I was a hell-raising, beer-drinking, crazy kid. And the guy, the message he gave, I completely believed everything he said. And then he flipped it on me. He said, "And there's one more thing. So I'm going to flip it on you. And I'm going to tell you there's one more thing. We talk a lot about paying off debt around the Ramsey organization. And when you look in the Bible, especially like Old King James, the word debt is usually meaning sin. That our misbehavior is a debt. And because God gave his only begotten Son, he forgives sin. God forgives sin. God forgives debt. And the only thing you have to do to be debt-free on that kind of debt is accept the gift. All you got to do is just say, "Yeah, Jesus, I get it. You died for my sins, and you're now Lord of my life." That's all you got to do. You're already debt-free. You just got to cash in the chip. It's easy in that sense, but it'll change everything for you when you do. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but would have everlasting life. All you got to do is accept the gift. And that is the most important thing Dave Ramsey will ever teach you. There's nothing more important than that. See, the peace and financial peace comes from outrageous generosity. You hold it with an open hand. You understand that I'm blessed that I might be a blessing. I have giving and tithing as part of my spiritual walk. It's part of the rhythm of who I am. I remember that I'm not a owner, I'm just a manager. I keep that framework in my mind so that I can see how I'm supposed to behave. We've shown you how to win with money. For 30 years at Ramsey, we've shown you how to win with money. We've shown you the biblical principles. We've lived those biblical principles in front of you without exception and without any variation. I've done my job. It's up to you now. You can do this. You can do this. I've seen people just like you do this. I've seen people that thought they couldn't do it. Do it. I am so proud of you. I know who you are. I have worked with people just like you for decades. You can do this. I believe in you. If you will live like no one else, later you can live and give like no one else. And then when someone asks you, you can say with great confidence, "How you doing?" "Better than I deserve." Thanks, guys.
We are here to do more than just for ourselves. We're here to do for others.
Our focus has shifted from surviving to thriving.
But when I think about how much we've paid off in 7 years, and we tithe the whole way, it's mind-blowing that we had enough.
The process sort of unlocks that part of you that's a giver. By the way, it allows you to develop the means to be able to do more of it.
When you start to think of yourself as more than just a spectator in life, it's such a joyful feeling.
If you hold your money like this, none can get out, but no more can get in either. You go like this to God, it just flows so much you can't even hold it. Here I am, I'm giving money away, and I'm richer than I've ever been.
When I was working in the schools and I would see kids come in to eat breakfast, I started wanting to somehow branch out and do something with it to help these kids on the weekend. That's how I came at starting Blessings in a Backpack.
You start looking at money as a tool that you use. It's an asset that the Lord has given me. And I pray, please show me how I should use your resources, because it's not me anymore.
And now we have all this time to pour into ministries and people going overseas to spread the gospel.
Pack food for kids I don't even know, but I feel really great knowing that there's 24 kids that are being fed this weekend.
You know, with this generous act my parents have done for me, I really have to shift my mindset, you know, because before, when you don't have enough, you're always worried about, you know, taking care of yourself. What do I need to do to help myself? With this, it just shifts my mindset to transcending that. I have the ability to pay it forward in a way that other people maybe don't.
The amount of money that we're able to give and enjoy giving, it's more than I ever would have imagined. It's just amazing.
So you better be ready for the ride, because it's friggin' awesome. I totally love it.
Well, you did it. You made it through the whole course, but you're not finished. So we thought it'd be valuable for you to hear from our hearts on some takeaways, some recommendations on going forward.
Right, the first thing you need to do is breathe. You just got 9 lessons in the face, right? All over. It is a lot. It's a lot, and it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like, I don't know how this thing's gonna end. We could never do that. You can. All of us have been there. But you gotta start with, relax. You know where you've been, now you gotta look at where you wanna go.
Yeah, it feels like you drank out of a fire hose, right?
Yes,
so we get it, you guys.
so much.
It's okay. Just take that deep breath. And then really that first thing you want to do is create the budget, okay? So the budget is going to give you a sense of calm. It's going to give you a sense of peace, because it's your game plan. You actually see your numbers on paper. And this is a key to winning financially, you guys. We talk to people all the time. They're getting out of debt. They're doing their debt-free screams. They're building wealth. And the budget is the key. It's the thing that gives you intentionality, it gives you momentum, and it just gives you a plan. It's amazing how much control you have over your money when you're on a budget.
Listen, this is too long a run to hold your breath the whole time. Yeah. Dr. Deloney's right. You got to breathe. I mean, you got to enjoy the rhythm of the whole thing, and then you got to work the plan. This is what makes people win with this subject. And the funny thing is, it ends up touching so many other areas of their life.
And one of those things I wish I knew is that it won't always be this hard. We're asking you to do a budget and cut your expenses and take on extra side jobs, and you're going, this is too much. But here's the thing, I was where you were. I remember less than a decade ago being at baby step 1 with $40,000 in debt, wondering, how am I going to get out of this? And how long am I going to have to sacrifice to win? And now, less than a decade later, I'm at baby step 7. And I wish someone told me, this isn't forever. It gets better. The intentionality will carry with you the rest of your life, but the sacrifice is temporary.
Yeah, when the habit changes, it becomes more automatic. Right. And so that's why it gets easier. It's like, you know, the first time you ever in your whole life, if you've ever done this, get a personal trainer. Well, the next week you're so sore you can't walk. But it's not always going to be that way. Right. You know, you'll get your habit moving, you build your muscle tone, you know, you get the rhythm of the whole thing going, and it does get easier because it becomes more automatic.
Yeah, it becomes your normal. It really does. And so one thing I would say, though, to continue to make it your normal is to stay plugged into the membership. You guys, this content, these courses, they were created for you. We want you to win. And honestly, to get from each baby step to the next is staying plugged in, because you're gonna hit bumps in the road. Life is not just this like straight line up, okay? It's gonna go up and down. And so in those moments that you're down, staying plugged in and staying motivated in the membership is gonna help so much.
And in addition to staying plugged into the membership, you have to stay connected to other people. That is key. You gotta have people in your corner, people are gonna fight for you, people are gonna hold you accountable, people are gonna say, you bought what? Right? You gotta have people in your life to be successful at anything, but especially getting through the baby steps.
Yeah, I mean, when you go back to the group or back to your coach or back to your coordinator and you did something stupid, that you know you shouldn't have done,
the fact that that's all there in your life will keep you from doing that stupid thing. And the other thing is, you've got a place to go brag. Hey, I paid off another credit card. I knocked out that student loan. And you need community. People need people. And God said it's not good that man be alone. And so community and coaching and this content coming at you, staying plugged in, it's just vital.
Yeah, and as part of this membership, you have coaching at your disposal. So take advantage of that. We've got coaches on top of your family and friends that will cheer you on, that will answer your questions. They've been there. And to have a real human who can just talk you through your specific situation is invaluable.
You've got all the key components here of what it takes to win. I mean, you're breathing, we're building this muscle tone, we're on a budget, you're in the community, which is absolutely vital. You can talk to these coaches. These coaches are going to give you the right answer, and they're going to be nicer than if you call me on the radio, because they're like nice people and everything. But they'll tell you the truth, and they're going to hold you accountable. And it sets this tone of accountability and encouragement. It just adds to the probability that the end of the story is you win. And that's where you want to be. That's what you want. You want to be following the processes that are proven. And, that's what we have with this membership for sure. And so here's the thing. Why are we doing all this? Why are you doing all this? So that. We don't get out of debt to get out of debt. We get out of debt so that we can build wealth. Why do we build wealth? We don't build wealth just to pile up money. We build wealth so that we're able to retire with dignity, so that we're able to change our family tree, so that we're in a position to be outrageously generous. Ultimately, we all have to do this stuff. We don't want to be paycheck to paycheck. It's about getting your finances in order so that. So here's the thing. You're not done. It does get easier. You get the rhythm, you get the muscle tone, everything starts working. It's going to get easier and easier and easier, but you're not done. You're going to be on purpose for the rest of your life, and it's going to bring incredible blessings to you. It's going to bring incredible blessings to your community and to your family. You're just getting started. You can do this. Do not quit. You got this. Let's go to our 1 minute takeaway.
Hey, Cody, how you doing? Can you hear us, Cody?
Yes, sir.
How's your day going?
Good, good. How are you?
Were you able to hear the video okay? Because I forgot to mute the camera.
No, I heard everything great. Thank you.
Perfect. Here we go. Ooh. Is that the last time? No, there. Yep. Just a little bit. All right, so we needed to talk about not only the appreciation of everybody that attended over the course of 8 weeks, and tonight being the 9th night. Roberto, thank you for coming and joining us on the last night. Good to see you, brother. And we also wanted to collect the snapshots. Obviously, we don't have everybody's snapshots, but if everybody can get the snapshots to Lourdes so that we can come up with a final appreciation of the greatness, success that we had over the last 9 weeks. Because we know that many of you actually paid off credit cards, paid off debt, paid off loans, and the numbers came extremely down. So we want to make sure that we're able to celebrate that. So in our final email to everybody, considering this course, we like to be able to put those numbers in celebration of what we accomplished over the last 9 weeks. So please get that to Lourdes, and any budget checkups or questions. Remember, we have Sergio and also Roberto, which is with us here tonight. They're willing to help us with any of that, financial advice, or even helping us put budgets together. But you also have access to the FPU membership. Those coaches are also willing to help you out. You paid for it. It's a 1-year membership. We encourage people to stay with that membership and keep plugging away. Remember, this is not this is not a sprint, and it's not a scrimmage. This is a marathon. This is a lifelong plan. But it's only up to you, the individual, that will determine how long it's going to take you to get to that finish line. And what is your finish line? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. What is your finish line? Is it that dream house? Is it that dream vacation? Is it getting your kids through college without being in debt? Is it a car? Is it just being debt free? What is it what's your finish line? And if once you've made that determination, is the itch bad enough? Does it itch that much that you're going to do whatever it takes? Are you going to be willing to sacrifice things that you want to do and say, I'm not going to do this right now because I want to get here? Because if I do this, I'm going to push that back. If I do this, it's going to delay that 3 to 4 months. If I do this, it might be another 6 months. It might be another year. But if I don't do this, I'm most likely going to hit my goal. I'm most likely going to get where I want to get to. It's only up to the individual. It's you as the individual. You have to decide, what's your end goal? Where is it that you want to get through? We're just going to go ahead and jump into the activity information.
All right, so as Dave said, the peace and financial peace comes from outrageous generosity. And that's something that I would love to do, once we get to the point where we're debt free and we're financially out of debt and living better financially, and that we're able to help those in need. I mean, just like Dave described there, just being able to help the single mom, whatever issues, whatever needs are out there, just being able to do it, because there's nothing more frustrating than coming across people that are really hurting and not being able to help like you would like to help, because you're bound with all this debt. So it says here, plus giving is the most fun you can have with money, and I totally believe that. In today's activity, you'll get a chance to write down different ways you can start giving. Then we'll look at our class's financial snapshot to see the progress we've made since the first lesson. Like Mike said, the snapshot is in lesson 9 in your books. So if you can just fill that out and send us the information so we can go ahead and give you guys the final results on that. So let's go ahead and take a few minutes to work through the activity on page 134 of your workbook. There are already a couple of examples in each category. Then write down other ways you want to give. So let's go ahead and turn to page 134. And it says here, give to look more like God. Giving changes you. We're not trying to be mushy or corny. It's a fact. You see, God is the ultimate giver. And when we give, we start to look more like him. 1 Chronicles 29:14 says, everything comes from you. And we have given you only what comes from your hand. Everything we have comes from God. He owns it all. When he asks us to give, it's not because he needs our money. His goal is not to reshape economics. His goal is to reshape our hearts. When you give your money, your time, and your talents to help and love other people, it doesn't change them as much as it changes you. And God's all about changing you. That's what this whole journey toward financial peace is all about, changing you. So remember, the peace and financial peace comes from outrageous generosity. So in the box below, it says you should always be a giver. Baby steps 1, 2, and 3. And baby steps 1 through 3, you might only be giving a tithe to your local church. In baby steps 4 through 6, you may have a little room in your budget to start giving offerings. And by the time you hit baby step 7, you're giving from your surplus with outrageous generosity. So on the next page, on page 135, it says ways you can start giving. Jot down ideas about how you can start giving your money, time, and talents today, no matter which baby step you're on.
So to get all of us right now, if there's a place where that you'd like to share, if you're okay with sharing, what would be one of those categories? We want everybody just to jump in and share with that, whether it's money, time, or talents, where you feel that you're contributing to the God's kingdom. And anybody that wants to share what you're doing right now.
Sometimes it's not all about, the money and if
Well, I'm
if
saying
you
it could be
get
time, it
yeah.
could be talents.
And your time also, you're, volunteering your time.
Even though I was stretching for a bit, so I'm sorry for the weird sound. So Dad and I, we're trying to pay a certain amount of money to pay off my credit card. Since I paid off car repairs right before New York, and this was right before I went did the Financial Peace University, and hopefully I can do it in time for while that heart coming up in March 2. I know we haven't even put down the first $200 yet too, and start giving more to my church and everything, because I haven't given in a while, because I don't go to church on Sundays as much anymore because of my work schedule. I can only go once a month, and I shared before a while ago, I said no to certain infomercials I get on my emails, just since I'm a Delta Skymiles member, they send me certain things oh, it's fall, come experience the Carolinas, and the leaves changing with us. We'll get you on a flight for a certain amount of money, $100 or more or something.
So out of those 3 categories, Chris, where would you like to start if you haven't started yet?
Well, budgeting's one of them, 2, and volunteer, my mom was just here, so he volunteers at the Place of Hope on Tuesdays, right off the place on North Lake Boulevard. I mean,
What about you, Chris? Not what Mom does. She's a good example. What about you?
I mean,
That's not a question for you.
I'd probably volunteer somewhere too, but I gotta see exactly where. I gotta look online, so.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
I guess when I'm done paying with my daughter's school, because we're paying about $300 something a week towards Zoe's daycare. So when she gets out of that school, we'd like to, tithe more into the mom. But unfortunately, I can't tithe as much because of about $1,700 is just going into 2 kids.
All right. What was cool about what Dave shared in the video was that he said, it doesn't matter what we give. It's not about the tenth, it's not about how much you give. It just says, just give. Start giving, no matter what it is. And when we give, regardless of the amount it is, it makes you feel good. I mean, I gave one time just driving through a drive-through. I paid for the meal of the person that was behind me. And just that in itself was a great gesture of mine, but it was the fact that you pay for somebody else's meal and maybe it was only $5, and it was a great feeling that I was able to do that for somebody. So it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be a large amount, is what is it that we're giving? Are we actually giving? Because we can easily spend 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks on a meal, on a lunch, on whatever. And if we didn't have that extra lunch out in the street, you know, throw fast food, you could have gave that extra 5, 10, 20 bucks to whatever cause you want. So that's the question we have to ask is, how is it that we're spending the money? How is it, whether we're giving, whether it's to a ministry, whether it's to a church, whether it's to a nonprofit organization, regardless what it is, the fact that you give, even if it's just $10 on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis, it doesn't matter. It's when we're giving that's gonna make us realize, no, we're doing something generous.
Mike, I'd like to say that what you said is humbling, but it's, in essence, it's so very true. So if you think about how you have on the income side of your ledger, and you know from what Lourdes is saying, you have fixed expenses and, you know, variable expenses, and they sometimes don't at all have anything left. So now when you're just doing something that you're talking about, Mike, whether it's $10 or $25 every week, it's uncomfortable, you have to get in a habit of doing it.
Right.
And I've been out of the habit for quite a number of years, a couple of years at least, of not giving it all because there isn't any to do it.
And it is a habit, Bob, it is a habit. And that's why having a budget is so
Start
important.
small and continue to religiously.
And if you have a
build
budget,
back up.
you'll be able to see where you can take away and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Because you know that if you're budgeting yourself, you know how much, if you have $100 a month to spend however you want to spend it, right? Right, because that's all you have is $100 a month. Then you can say, you know what? $5 of those $100 a month is gonna go towards generosity. Maybe I'll buy somebody a coffee, maybe I'll buy somebody to a drive, whatever it is. The budget is really important, so you know where every dollar is going. Lourdes and I, we do every dollar out, where we can see where all our dollars are being processed. And that's such a great tool. Vic, you want to say something?
Yeah, just real quick, many years ago, before Uber and Lyft came, my business was doing really, really well. And that was and I was back in the days with my ex-wife back then. And we used to do that, we used to go out to dinner a lot, and we used to pay just for random people's food. And I could have done, you know, back in the days, and it's so hard to even do that now, because my business was like cut more in half. I mean, way more than half from, you know, Uber and Lyft coming into town. But I used to love doing it. I used to love giving away, like just buying somebody's food.
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
It's a great
And
feeling.
this is why it says to get to baby
Changes your
step
heart.
7. If we get to baby step 7, you don't have to say, I love you, I love how I used to do that. Well, we need to get back into baby step 7. In other words, focus on baby steps 1, 2, and 3, then 4, 5, and 6. So that we can get back to baby step 7.
And it's so true that, you know, when we're generous and we're giving and we're helping, it changes our heart. It gets the focus off us, you know, and we put the focus on the other person, and that's God, what God wants for us, right, for each and every one of us.
And to see their reaction.
Yeah,
What he
yeah,
did,
it's
that stuff was.
yeah, there's no price in that. That's, oh my gosh.
And then the other one is time. He talks about time. How do we volunteer our time? You guys come in here tonight, you're volunteering your time. You could have chose to go trick or treating or doing something else or spend time elsewhere and not be here. But yet you volunteered your time to come here to learn more and be part of this. And that's important. That's important to your personal growth, but it also is important to the organization itself as we're all trying to work together and grow together as a family. Talents, we all, like I mentioned this a few weeks back, we all have a God-given talent. If you haven't discovered what your talent is, find out what that talent is. If you need help in finding out that talent, I'll be more than able and happy to help you to find your talent. But everybody has at least one talent. It's a God-given talent, and it's at least one talent. And many of you have more than one talent. Many of you have 2 or 3, even up to 5 talents. But where is it that you're using your talent? How are you using your talents? And this is what David's trying to get at. The more we understand the good thing about generosity, the better we're going to be able to use our talents.
Mike, that's a heavy comment you make in the social, I have a tremendous amount of certain talents and I don't use them the way I should by giving that time. People would love to know just how to balance a checkbook, okay? And they don't want to do it, they're not good at arithmetic, okay? So they just don't do it and they win. And it's difficult. People like to know how to make investments. So what are investments, right?
And you know what, Bob, and what you're saying, it's something what you're saying is, we talked about that in high school, they're not teaching any of this stuff, right? So you can actually volunteer your time at a high school, at a local high school, say, and go into the principal's office, right, to the administrator's office, and says, hey, I would like to volunteer my time here to teach kids how to balance their checkbook and talk about finances. And I want to do that for free. I don't want the school board to pay me. And you can set up one night a week to provide your services for free.
And it's just lazy, it's not to try to find a way to go and do that.
Yeah.
And I'd rather come home, read the newspaper.
And you could probably, by volunteering and doing something like that and offering those services, you could possibly change a lot of young people's lives. Yeah.
Most public schools, like when I was in high school, they had a thing like almost every day after school called First Priority, to where they would teach about the word of like God every day. You go in after school for an hour till like 4:30 or 5, and then they tell you all about the Bible and the stuff too, which I believe is a good thing. I didn't hear about First Priority till high school. I mean, not many none of the teachers would really talk about it much, because since God was taken out of the Palm Beach County school system, teachers can't talk about religion because they fear losing their job 24/7. So, and we're kind of like the same way at work. They don't let us talk about religion.
So what's your point?
Well, I'm just saying, they have a thing after school, almost every high school, they have a thing called First Priority, to where they would talk about God and all that stuff too.
That's a good thing. Did you ever?
I mean, it's a pretty good. I've been to it a couple times too, believe it or not too. So.
But they would be way past that goal now.
But the only reason why you don't hear about it during school because they took God out of the Palm Beach County school system. They even took God.
He was just trying to say, Bob, that
Christians.
we was just trying to say there's these programs after school. Because I mentioned to you about the program that you could possibly volunteer to do, and just to share, but that there are different programs. So it's good for sharing that.
It is, and it's pretty sad in a way that they're trying to take the two words under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance, because when you say under God, it offends certain people too, so.
Let's go ahead, let's go ahead and turn to page 136, and we'll have a volunteer from each table. Magda, you wanna read number 1?
Whether you're taking this class online or in person, be honest with your answers and remember to encourage one another. Number 1, remember, no matter where you are in the baby steps, giving should be a priority in your budget. How has this lesson helped you better understand the reason this is so important?
Yeah.
Well, it's like he says, it makes you happy. When you give, you have joy, and we are proof of that. The more we gave, we were fine with finances.
Yeah.
I remember one time we had, I don't know if I said this to you guys before, we had $150 in the bank. And a lady that was by herself, one of her sons is in jail. She was sick, she called me, she said, I need $150. And I told you, said, well, she needs them. So we gave to her, and then we could pay everything in the house. I was telling you, said, how are we paying everything? But yeah, it happened just like that. So it's true, the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah. And today you offered your talents by cooking the meal for us. So again, that's another way of giving. And you gave Victor a break.
Big.
After 6 days in Dominican.
All right, Victor, question 2, Victor.
You wanna take it or I take it?
Go to Mark.
Giving is the most fun you can have with money. How have you had fun with giving in the past? What's one of the ways you want to be outrageous generously in the future? I mean, again, like I said, to me, it was more when I was making a lot of money back then, and I was able to just, we went to dinner every day, and we gave free dinners to every day, every time we went up. And sometimes it was, I think the highest dinner we paid was like $100 to 3 little old ladies. And that was at a not a chip, was not Chili's, Applebee's. You know, it was $100, but they, you know, I didn't know, but they were drinking too, the ladies. But it was a little over $100. Wow, that was the most.
Let us know which restaurant you're going to next.
What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
I said, let us know what restaurant you're going to next, so that we can make sure that we're there.
And I think, you know, the last thing that I've done, which made me feel good, I gave away a car. I think I told you guys the story, to a young lady that came from Cuba, and she was dating this guy, and he kind of left her in the street, and she was Glenda's, one of Glenda's best friends. And I asked her when was her birthday. She goes, Thursday. I didn't know. Thursday coming up. And I just said, why don't you come up here to you know, West Palm, find your way here, find your way here. So she actually took the train, and I just took out my title and gave her my car. I think I told you the story.
Nice.
So that was fun. Oh yeah, she's to this day she's still like hugs me like, oh yeah. It was fun to do that. No payment, no nothing.
Yeah, so good.
It just felt good.
Thanks,
Now, where did you get the car to give it? Was it a car you already owned, or did you?
It was a car that I already owned, and actually, this is where it started me to my debt, kind of, with buying my wife a new car.
Right, okay.
And giving her the car that was paid off.
Trading it in.
Versus trading it in.
All right, Mark, you got 3? Thanks, Victor.
What keeps you from giving as much as you would like to give? And how does this lesson help you work through the hang up? Well, recently I opened the company up this past year, so it's been pretty tight for me. But this lesson showed me how to save and budget. Should be really done.
So how does lesson help you work through any hang up that you might still have?
Well, giving is the absolute best feeling in the world.
Say again.
Giving is the best thing in the world.
Best feeling in the world.
Oh, yeah. But how does it make you feel when you can't do that? For whatever reason. That's it. Does this lesson help you to work through hang up? Hang up is I can't do what I want to do. I want to do it. But the pluses and the minuses don't give you enough pluses to do it at all. Then the responsibility is to try to get the minuses down, right?
Right.
So therefore you're handicapped. You wish you could run as fast as the guy across the hallway, right?
Yeah.
You can run as many one sprints as you want, but you're not gonna run that fast. So therefore you're not starting. And that is the hang up that I deal with, or any function deals with. But I don't have enough pluses to let me enrich myself with the joy of giving. Because I get too many minuses to cover, right? And that's a hang up. And that hang up almost depresses you to the point you can't enjoy that blessing that Lord gives you when you give away. So
And I think what Mark said that now doing the lesson, he's able to budget
Yes.
and make himself be betterly prepared for the future.
Exactly.
As he continues to. Hey, Cody, could you pick up question 4? And if you're able to turn on your video just so that we can see you as you answer the question for us. Question 4 on page 136. Are you there, Cody?
No, mute.
So Mio,
Cody, can you hear us? All right, Bob, go ahead, pick up question 4.
Okay, whether you have a little or a lot, God owns it all. How does he own, how does his ownership of everything affect the way you think about what he's giving you to manage? How does his ownership of everything affect the way you think about what he's given you to manage? That's a pretty deep question. You can look back and say, hey, we gave you so much, you manage it so we can squander it or spend it all, or you don't saving up for any excuse you want to come up with. So therefore, you fully manage that's your job to help manage assets, right? You can spend it.
So let me ask you a question, Bob.
So how
You
does
just
that-
recently had a scare, a physical scare.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so the fact is, if you wouldn't have survived that scare and you would have gone home, would you have been prepared to answer that question better? Or would you be saying, or what would you be saying differently? According to that question.
Well, I think there'd be many stacks of areas that I would like to have done better.
So now the fact that you had that scare, and now that you're reading this question, now you're probably changing the trajectory of how you're doing everyday life.
Yes.
And making choices the way you're making choices, yes or no?
Yes, both health wise and financial wise. Yeah, and there's no question that that's true. It's like a reality check, like you're getting pinched, right?
Yeah.
Your arm by the light because you're not looking straight ahead, okay? You feel it.
That's good. Let's get to the end of this lesson here, because I got a presentation I want to share before the end of the night. Let's just go ahead and read through all this here.
So just wanted to remind everyone how important it is to complete the action steps after each lesson. Hopefully you guys have been doing that.
Page 137.
For homework. Even though you won't be meeting again as a class, it's important that you do the action steps for homework. So let's just go over. Let's just go ahead and go over the action steps real quick on page 137. We'll just read them.
And just remember, this is an opportunity for you guys to cut any credit cards. I know a few people mentioned that you don't have any more credit cards, or you finished paying off credit cards. So you want to take this day and time as you're wrapping up this lesson and say, you know what? Week 9, I'm done with this. Let's go ahead and I'm going to cut these credit cards and start a new fresh start. But we want to celebrate with you guys when you do that and how you do that. And obviously we won't see you guys anymore after today's class, considering FPU, but you'll be back to join us for other classes. And you can always share with us that you did have, a moment that you cut up credit cards, even after the fact that you finished this lesson. But
and also remember that you have access to FPU online for a whole year, even though you're done with this class. So you can use all their tools and resources that they offer you with your membership. So make sure that you keep that in mind, don't forget.
Well, let me ask you a question for Chris, who's not here, but I'd like to know.
I'm right here.
Oh, where are you? Oh, there you are. So how does someone go and use the tools, okay? Those are usually computer modern type things to do. But what if you want to have a one-on-one discussion?
you just got to reach out to them online.
Did you do this?
Huh?
Did you go into your book?
Yeah.
No, I did not. do
Kristen.
You need that, you need that.
Kristen.
Oh, yes,
Kristen.
right in front of my.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all you gotta do is sign up,
And you can call,
got,
you
you know,
can talk to people.
Call in.
Yeah.
it says it right here, it says get started.
Gives you all the
It
instructions
gives
in
you all the
there.
instruction, what you need to do. And
Okay.
then
We
you'll
give that-
see that there's some, it says it like right there, speak to a
Yeah.
coach. You gotta write like an email, I think it is, or something like that, or.
And you can also download that,
Yeah, Chris is already signed in, so you
already
can,
done
you
that,
can,
Chris?
you can sit by Chris on the computer and go
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah, I've already done it.
Yeah, man.
and don't you have to have that to download that every dollar?
No.
No, every dollar. comes
No,
with
I
it.
think you do.
Yeah, 'cause I tried to
Well,
download
you
it.
need- you need
They
to-
want to charge,
Yeah,
yes,
they should.
so if you don't download this, you don't get that
You
every
need,
dollar.
yeah, you need to
You
download
get
that.
code from them, but you
Yeah.
to put it on your phone, you need the code.
All right, I'm gonna read over. I'm gonna read over on page 137, the action steps. It says it's time to live out what you just learned. Complete each of the action steps below. You're gonna do this for homework, but I'm gonna read them real quick. Gratitude leads you to contentment, whether you're on baby step 1 or 7, God has given you something to manage. Instead of chasing what's next, stop to practice contentment and thank God for what he's given you. In the space below, you're gonna write 3 things you're thankful for. Look, the second bullet here, look back at and then charge ahead. No matter where you are in the baby steps, your life should already look different than it did before you started. In the space below, list the top 3 things you've learned and then list your why. The reason you refuse to quit. This is why you won't give up when things get tough and why you'll live like no one else. So later you can live and give like no one else. And then the last one, it says, stay plugged in to your Ramsey membership. That's what we were just talking about. Want to stay on track with your goals? Every week, track transactions in every dollar. Use the other tools available to you. Watch videos, connect with a coach, and more. That's what we're just talking about.
I want to share with you guys, a little presentation here real quick. Let me just,
So while you're doing that,